Good morning. My name is Chayla Metzger, and I'm your worship associate for today. It is so good to see you all here in the sanctuary on this beautiful day and in our online spaces as well. Our theme this March is trust. Our nation right now has so much trust that is challenged, so much trust that is broken, and trust also remains in us. Trust is what we need to build here in community. Trust is what we offer. Trust is what we risk. And trust is what we need. I know for me, trust is not always easy. Case in point, I could not float on my back successfully and peacefully until I was well into adulthood. This made passing swimming tests a special challenge for me for many years. Frankly, I just did not trust the water to hold me up unless I kicked it very hard. As a child, I was also badly bullied at times, and it took a very long time for me to trust myself in some common social situations. Friends and family and my faith community helped me trust when I was young, and they still help me build trust today. Part of faith can be trusting things you cannot see or touch. Spirituality can involve this trust. So can modern physics, where there are so many things you cannot see, but they are true according to scientific experiments so far. Like our faith community, the scientific community works together, and they trust the process of trial and error. Last week, millions of folks around the world who follow the Islamic faith started fasting as part of the holy month of Ramadan. These believers trust the process of fasting will focus their heart on matters of the Spirit. This community of believers trusts that they can wait until sundown to eat. This community of believers trust that their community can share this special time and honor together what is holy. It's a deeply personal and also very communal time, which is what we can build together if we trust. Come, let us worship together.
Assalamu alaikum. May we dwell in the spirit of peace and Ramazan Mubarak. May everyone have a blessed Ramadan. We are at the sacred threshold, as Chayla acknowledged, of Ramadan in the Islamic tradition. I call it both Ramazan and Ramadan. There's just same word in different languages. And we honor it each year with a special service. This year, we're going to be reflecting upon the Hadith Qudsi, which are powerful gems of Islamic wisdom in the sacred literature of the tradition. I'm the Reverend Jeremiah Lal Shabazz Kalende, and I'm joined on the chancel this morning by our worship chair, Chayla Metzger, our director of multi-generational religious education, Jessica Tenhave Place, our director of music, Sonder Choi, our choral section leaders, Talia Moore, Kian Haydari, David Eric Peterson, Olivia Salazar, and Ryan Humphrey on piano. And of course, we have the special treat this morning of having our church choir with us. Let's give them all a special thank you. I'd also like to give a special thank you to our church sextons, Tom and Kevin, for all they do to maintain the sacred space that houses us and all of our many activities and opportunities for building community, making justice, and learning together. And I want to give a special shout out to someone who we will be celebrating later this month and whose retirement I'm already grieving, which is our church administrator for the past 15 years, Narit Gordon. We're going to have an opportunity to celebrate her almost 15 years of service with us in the coming weeks. On a Sunday after the service, she'll be with us. Most of us, you don't all get to see Narit, but Narit's really the backbone of this community, and I really want us to celebrate her. And I have the really good news that we have also hired a new church administrator who will begin training with Narit on Monday. And a formal announcement will come out this week with more information so that you can get to meet Alfie, who will be our new congregational administrator. And I know our interviewing team, which had representatives from the board and the personnel committee, as well as myself and Narit, were all unanimously enthusiastic about our new congregational administrator. So there will also be opportunities to meet him in the coming weeks. So, the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Santa Monica is a contemporary congregation with roots deep in the centuries-old traditions of Unitarian Universalism. We are an open and affirming congregation celebrating LGBTIAQ+ members and friends, working for justice for BIPOC communities, towards full inclusion for those living with disabilities, as well as protecting our precious planet home and all of its inhabitants. We draw upon sacred, secular, and scientific sources in our liberal tradition and welcome spiritual beliefs from all of the world's religions and from humanistic, atheistic, and agnostic wisdom. If this is your first time joining us or you're still new to our congregation, we bid you a special welcome. And we invite you to meet with some of our membership folks after the service in the courtyard at our membership table to sign up for our weekly e-newsletter that goes out on Thursday and gives you a menu of all of the different events going on, and to stay for our coffee hour in Forbes Hall after the service to meet with folks. We are a kind and loving community. As we begin, we'd like to acknowledge that we gather upon the sacred lands near the life-giving waters and beneath the beautiful skies of indigenous people. This is the traditional home of the Tongva, Gabrielino, Keys, Verchendeno, Fernandino, Tatvaviam, and Chumash tribes. We remember the painful histories of these lands and continue our commitments to justice and sovereignty for indigenous people. So, I light our flaming, and just a note, it's interesting when Ramadan begins the day that you have to write a sermon and then deliver it, and you have to begin your new fasting and sleep cycle, so bear with me, y'all. I light our flaming chalice with Ramadan Home by my friend and one of the few other UU Muslim and Sufi ministers, the Reverend Summer Al-Bayati. Ramadan, you bathe me in your moonlight, and I kiss the ground in gratitude for you. The neighborhood is still. The dreamers lost in the movies in their minds have no knowledge of the dawn, of the sliver of light that gazes towards us, reminding us that hope resides in prayer. My lips drip with watermelon juices, reddish pink like blood, but sweet like life. Thirst suppressed for the moment, as my desert-parched lips, cracked from giving up, letting go of desire, of need, over and over again each day, taste the momentary, moistening miracle provided by you, and each bite tantalizes my tongue, while the fragrance of date palms tickle my nose, and France awaken yearnings once again, and I and you, beloved, I and you become one. It is as if the breath of cardamom whispers the name we long to know, Allahu, Allahu, Allahu. And my body returns, my heart remembers, and Ramadan, never forgotten, entices me back to love, and I am home once again. Now let us rise in body or spirit and sing our opening hymn, which is a Sufi poem by the Mevlana Rumi that was set to song in our Unitarian Universalist Seminary in Berkeley many a years ago, and then blessed by his great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-granddaughter. It's number 188 in your gray hymnal, Come, Come, Whoever You Are, and then please remain standing for our covenant and hymn of praise.
So we will sing this hymn once together in English, and then the second time in Spanish. and then as a 4-part round. So pick a number in your head. And if your number is 1, then when we break into the round, you will follow Talia, 2, Keon, 3, Olivia, and then 4, David. And then we'll do the round twice.
Love is the doctrine of this church. The quest for truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in freedom, to serve humankind in fellowship. Thus do we covenant with each other. El amor es la enseñanza de esta iglesia. Buscar la verdad es su sacramento y el servicio es la oración. Vivir juntos en paz, buscar el conocimiento en la libertad, servir a la humanidad en comunión. Así es como convenimos unos a otros.
Good morning. My name is Jessica Tenhave Place, and I'm the Director of Multi-Generational Religious Education. Glad to be serving this wonderful community. And our kids, if you weren't here last week, we're going to do our donations for the Westside Food Bank a little different. So thank you, friends, for bringing those things forward. And then if you go find Sophia with the grocery bags, if you have a donation in the pews, raise your hand, and our kids will come to you to collect it. Thank you so much, everyone, for being helpers. An important part of religious education here is our kids engaging in service and being a part of our community in many different ways. And I want to give big ups to our kids who were there yesterday at the March for Dignity. Along with the many adults from our community who were meeting with us. It was a great sort of interfaith march, all different kinds of faith communities there to stand up, particularly for the rights of immigrants in our community. So we can get another round of applause for the immigrants in our community. So yes, being present at these kinds of events in our community where we can stand up for our values, collecting donations for the West Side Food Bank to help people in our community who are in need. These are just some of the ways that we all learn and serve together. So we can bring everything up to the basket here. You can just leave your bags. Watch out for the chalice. Always be careful with our fire safety here. All right. And then once we've all placed everything there. Oh, nice. Somebody brought a bunch of Slim Jims. That's a good snack. Once we're all done bringing our donations to the basket, then you can meet me on the stairs along with any other kids who might be out there for our Time for All Ages. I feel privileged that people want to sit next to me. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. It's great to see you. And as Reverend Jeremiah was telling us a little bit ago, right now we are in the month of Ramadan, which is a special time for Muslim people because fasting during Ramadan is one of the 5 pillars of Islam. So we'll talk about what that means. But first, who knows what fasting is? What is it, Zia?
It's when, so it depends. It's when you don't eat for an amount of time. I think that for Ramadan, I read a book, and I think it's from breakfast till dinner.
That's great. Yeah, pretty much. It's from sun up to sundown, pretty much. Yeah, so I'm glad you already know about that. And you know what? I'm glad that you know that because the first time that I met someone who was fasting for Ramadan, I was in 5th grade, and my friend Wafa, who I think this was one of her first years fasting for Ramadan, she was telling me that she didn't have her lunch with her at school because she would be fasting for a whole month. And I thought, wow, what is her secret that she can not eat for 30 days and still be okay? I didn't realize that it's only during the sun-up times that people fast and then that they break their fast in the evening together. But so along with fasting during Ramadan, right, which is a spiritual practice that can help people focus more on their spiritual life and also help us get more empathy for people who have to go without food for other reasons, right? When we go through being hungry, it helps us hopefully be inspired to help others so that they don't have to be hungry. And so, Quinn, you're going to help me with my pillars here. So can you maybe bring those blocks down to the next step where others can see? You can put them in there for now. Just put them in the box, and then can you take them down to the step where everyone can see them? Thank you. Okay, so Quinn, can you put up the first pillar on the step? Right. So the pillars of Islam are the most important practices for what it means to be a Muslim. And so the first one, if you put that up, so that was testifying that there is one God and the Prophet Muhammad is the special messenger of God, meaning that we kind of have something in common with Muslims, right? Unitarian also means a belief in one God or one source of inspiration. And then the next pillar is saying daily prayers. Maybe you've seen Muslim people praying with like a special rug and everything. So that's another important pillar. And then we have giving to people in need in your community. So that's really important, making sure that we're sharing our wealth with each other. And then the last one is making a special trip to Mecca, which is a city in Saudi Arabia where the Prophet Muhammad was born. So lots of people will take, if they live here, a pretty far trip to get there, but people from all over the world do it. Oh no, did our pillars knock down? I know, I was asking for that. But so these are the pillars of Islam that are special and unique to that faith. But I think a lot of us can think about what the pillars of our faith are, or our spiritual path. So what are the things that are important to you for your spiritual life? I know for me, I like to do yoga. It's important for me to speak out about injustice. I do a breathing meditation. So can you guys think of any important pillars of a spiritual life? What is something that what are we all doing here today? Yeah, being in community together. I think that can be an important pillar for a lot of people. Or yesterday, those of us who were at the march speaking out against injustice, that can be an important pillar. And other things can be specific to whatever's special for us. Maybe some people in the choir, music is an important part of their spiritual practice. For others, maybe it's being out in nature. And for us, it's doing a lot of hands-on activities to help us learn in the cottage, right? So for now, can we put our pillars and blocks back into the box? And we'll head over to the cottage to learn more about the things that are most important to holding us up and holding our faith together. But we'll head out singing, "Go Now in Peace" together.
So I do have a few announcements today, and my first one is just a general reminder to please silence your cell phones, which I am going to do right now. So looking further ahead, in April 25th to 27th, there's a UU District Assembly meeting in San Diego, which can inspire us in these hard times. More locally, we have a Building Your Own Theology course going on with the amazing Reverend Kikanza Nuri Robbins, which is happening 2 Wednesday evenings a month on Zoom in March and April. Check out the website for more information. There is folk dancing in Forbes Hall, Saturday, March 8th, 7 to 8, so put on your dancing shoes and make some connections. Next week, we have a special guest minister on Sunday who will share her pilgrimage to Santiago de Compostela. So be sure to come for that. She will have her book about the experience for sale. Animal Ministry meets next Sunday, March 9th, after the service with important info to share about building justice for our animal communities. There is so much going on today after the service, and those events are all listed in your order of service. I want to especially draw your attention to the Art Wall reception in Forbes Hall for our artist, and the Green Living presentation happening right here at noon. We have Faith in Action protests, as you heard, lots of book club meetings, art classes, and more. Check out all the congregation does online and in our newsletters. It is almost time, that special time, to greet your neighbor. Before doing so, please remember to listen for Ryan's piano cues to return to worship, which we will then follow with our music for morning. So let's take a few moments now to say hello and to greet those around you, both familiar and new.
Hello, good morning, everyone. I would just like to read the program notes of our music for the morning. This is called The Skipping Stone. And this is a little bit about the text because it's a combination of 3 different writers, Khalil Gibran, Rumi, and Hildegard von Bingen. The lives and words of 3 individuals who made a lasting impact in the world were chosen as the text for this work, The Skipping Stone. Though born centuries apart and from very different points of the globe, each one struggled to change their existence to their essence. Their words here, not stated formally in the poetry, but in everyday quotes, calls us to think and live at a higher level. In the words of Khalil Gibran, your living is determined not so much by what life brings to you as by the attitude you bring to life, not so much by what happens to you as by the way your mind looks at what happens. As is often the case, some quotes of well-known historical figures become paraphrased or modified in translation, though this sometimes poses as a challenge to authenticate a particular quote, and in rare cases even the source, the intent or essence of these 3 individuals is clear. May there be an increasing amount of people on the planet who strive to make the human existence more beautiful for all. This is The Skipping Stone.
Change the world, but I can cast a stone across the waters to create many ripples. In one drop of
We center ourselves with Sufi spiritual practices this morning as we dwell more deeply in the presence of these moments. Sufi practices are exercises of devotion that are intended to open our hearts and uplift our beings to their higher natures. You're invited to settle more comfortably into these moments as we begin to breathe together and then pray and meditate. Let us begin with breath, the very spirit of life, and become more aware of our breathing in this moment. Perhaps the simplest of all zikrs, or the practices of divine remembrance, is the practice to meditate on the divine name of Allah. With each slow inhalation, we hear the quiet ah sound made without effort. So listen to your own breath as it makes the gentle sound of ah as you breathe in through your mouth. And then with each slow exhalation, the la sound rolls off of our tongues without any great effort. The divine name is one with the sound of our breathing. And let us breathe like this for a few moments together if you are so moved. Immersed in the ocean of oneness of the spirit of life, we breathe and dwell, remembering our unity with all of being. Our mindfulness prayer is one of my favorites, the Dua An-Nur, or the prayer of the light in the Islamic tradition. I offer it once a year, usually at this service, and you're invited to silently repeat each verse after me or just receive these words of life which have been passed down through the generations in the Islamic tradition. It's helpful if you imagine the light radiating within and about and around with each of the requests of the prayer. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. In the name of Allah, the infinitely compassionate and the tenderly merciful. O Allah, place light in our hearts, and on our tongues light, and in our ears light, and in our sight light, and above us light, below us light, to our right light, and to our left light, and before us light, and behind us light. Place in our soul light. Magnify for us and amplify for us light. Make for us light and make us light. O Allah, grant us light and place light in our nerves, and in our body light, and in our blood light, and in our hair light, and in our skin light. O Allah, make for us a light in our graves and a light in our bones. Increase us in light, increase us in light, increase us in light. Grant us light upon light. Amen. Let's deepen our time in silent meditation together. When the sliver of the radiant crescent moon appeared in the starry night sky a day ago, we crossed the threshold, all of us, into the holy month of Ramadan. For one lunar month, Muslims all around the globe will welcome the Queen of Months. In some Orthodox traditions, Ramadan is known as the Sultan of Months, but in my tradition, we call her the Sultana, the Queen of the Months. It's an opportunity to deepen spiritual exercise and to draw near to the most beloved Allah. This crescent hung over Los Angeles following a sunset, a glorious sunset in which hues of bright tangerine, lavender, and a gentle blue filled the sky as though celebrating the arrival of this sacred time. I was driving about, making my final preparations to ensure that I'd have all of the nutritious and hydrating foods for my early mornings before the crack of dawn, suhoor meal, before offering my sunrise prayers and then returning to rest. In my Sufi tradition, we eat eco-halal foods, which are predominantly vegetarian and vegan, and intended to facilitate a deep greening of the body and the heart, and to avoid harm to animals and workers and the environment to the greatest extent possible. For us, this is sacred food, eco-halal food. For me, this means organic tofu scramble, beans, tomatoes, cucumbers, strawberries, and grapes on some mornings, and oatmeal, apples, watermelon, and cantaloupe on other mornings. Since all Muslims are prohibited from eating or drinking even water during the daylight hours, with a few exceptions, the suhoor meal is of particular importance as it is all of the sustenance one will have until nightfall. I know Jessica said it's only the daylight hours, but try fasting for only the daylight hours and you'll see it's a big only. It is said that refraining from the very basic necessities of life deepens one's appreciation for the wondrous gifts that we possess in a simple meal or drink of juice or of water. It's these simple gifts that are so important that we take for granted day in and day out, meal in and meal out. In Ramadan, we remember just how sacred a meal is. Our empty stomachs also generate compassion as we likewise remember those who are not fasting by choice and who do not have access to nutritious meals and safe drinking water. The fast draws us out of ourselves to remember others. In Ramadan, the simplest act of daily life, they take on a renewed significance, and our gratitude and our compassion can be magnified through them. In the evening, after the long hours of fasting, community is celebrated with a great feast, the iftar meal, and then preparations begin for the next day. Now, Islam, in its present expression, began when Allah Azza wa Jal, the mighty and the majestic, I love this, began communicating with the Prophet of light, peace be upon him and his family, through the angel Jibriel or Gabriel in a cave near Mecca in 610 of the Common Era. What began as a few sentences received in one fateful hour in a meditation would become a revelation at the heart of what is today the world's second largest religion. The message continued over a period of 23 years and would eventually be compiled as the sacred book, the Holy Quran, which literally means the recitation. In addition to observing the 5 foundational pillars of Islamic faith, Unitarianism, the daily prayers, observing Ramadan, and making a pilgrimage to Mecca and giving to charity, Muslims are called to study the wisdom and emulate the character of the final prophet sent to humanity to guide humanity on the path of return in this tradition. It is said that 124,000 prophets have been sent to humanity throughout all of history, including his illustrious predecessors, Moses and Jesus, peace be upon them, and 20 some others mentioned in the Quran and many others known to the tradition. All of these 124,000 messengers were sent by the great compassion of existence to guide humanity away from corruption and wrongdoing and towards righteous living and the spirit of life itself. So Islam understands itself to be the latest expression of a primordial religion of humankind that has been practiced in different ways by different cultures and people across time. Now, though we do not have the teachings and scriptures and examples of most of these 124,000 prophets and communities that have existed throughout time, what we do possess in Islamic tradition provides a roadmap to be studied to support the spiritual journey. Now, in addition to studying the revelation of the Quran, the traditional practice this month is actually to read the entire book in the course of a month. So I've started that, and it's the Quran's divided into 30 sections, and you read one section each day. And it's really an amazing practice. But Muslims also, beyond studying the Quran, they study the life of this prophet of compassion, peace be upon him, as an example to be emulated. Now, scholars of the tradition were eager to preserve as much as they could about this monumental religious figure, so they went about collecting and assessing and validating everything they could to learn more about his life. What we learned is called the Sunnah, or his practices and behaviors, and the Hadith, or the recorded wisdom sayings. The Sunnah and the Hadith are secondary to the Quran for the purposes of Islamic law because their accuracy is still debated to this day by various factions and schools of thought within the Islamic tradition. So examples of the Sunnah, or behaviors to emulate in the tradition, include growing a natural beard, covering one's head, eating moderately, and smiling sincerely, since these were all examples set by Muhammad himself. Now, the Hadith are these recorded wisdom sayings of the Prophet. There's somewhere between 4,000 and 30,000 Hadith, depending on what you include. Today, in honor of Ramadan, I'd like to focus on a very special subset of the Hadith known as the Hadith Qudsi, or the Holy Hadith. Now, whereas most of the Hadith are Muhammad's words to his followers, the Hadith Qudsi are the words of God spoken by him in the tradition. Now, these are not included in the Quran, but are sacred wisdom for special reflection by Sufis and saints and followers of this way. I hope these divine words of the Islamic tradition will perfume this sanctuary with the spiritual fragrance of cardamom, which is said in Sufi tradition to be the scent of the heart as it is cracked open. We find in the Hadith Qudsi the answers to some of the existential questions at the heart of religious life. What's the meaning of life? Why is there something rather than nothing? What is the motivation of creative spirit? So, in responding to such inquiries, we find in Hadith Qudsi not the voice of Muhammad, but the voice of Allah, providing a direct answer to such questions. This one gives us a glimpse into the mind of God in the Islamic tradition. Allah the Mighty and Majestic states, "I was a hidden treasure, and I wished to be known. So I created all of existence that I might be known." This verse makes me think of what we imagine the first moments of the creation of the universe to be like, with everything condensed into this point of infinite density of being. And then it pours forth and begins all of these sequences of expansion and evolutionary processes and creative expression. I was a hidden treasure and I wished to be known. So I created all of existence so that I might be known. So here one is summoned to seek the hidden treasure of the spiritual journey. What if that hidden treasure is the love beating at the heart of all existence? This hadith invites us to such mystic contemplation, a living love at the heart of existence. Now, Unitarianism, the doctrine of oneness, and Universalism, the doctrine of universal salvation, are also found expressed in this literature, as is the multi-religious embrace that is familiar to our contemporary Unitarian Universalism. It's interesting that Unitarian Christianity and Islam came to very similar conclusions about the person of Jesus, peace be upon him. Our spiritual ancestors rejected the theological proposition that Jesus was divine and instead understood him to be a child of the divine and a prophet and a Messiah. In the Hadith Qudsi, Allah relays, "And the children of Adam curse me when they say God has begotten a son, when in fact I am eternal. I was never begotten, and I never beget, and I have no equal." The doctrine of the Trinity conflicted with the Unitarianism of Islam, which is its first pillar. Islam wanted to correct the error of the Trinity and instead offered that Jesus, may he dwell in radiant peace, was a prophet and the Messiah and the Word of God, but not divine or part of a triune deity as Christianity imagined centuries after he lived. Now, there are also expressions of universalism in the Hadith. Again, these aren't things that are really lifted up in a lot of mainline Islam, but they're there, including so we could use some more Muslim universalists in my mind. When Allah completed creation, the one wrote in the book that sits near with the one upon the throne, "Verily, my mercy prevails over my wrath." My mercy prevails over my wrath. That's a universalist statement. Now, in addition to the hadith about the 124,000 prophets, there is another hadith Qudsi, which at the end of time, Allah appears to everyone, and some, including the disbelievers, it says, who do not recognize the one. So Allah takes whatever form is familiar to them, and they realize they are all the same supreme reality. That's a really interesting theological proposition, and one that isn't particularly foreign to Unitarian Universalism, the one light through many windows that we explored some last Sunday. Now, we find echoes of spiritual truths found in earlier traditions like Christianity also in this wisdom literature. Allah will say on the day of judgment, it is recorded, "Child of Adam, I was sick, but you did not visit me." And some will respond, "My nurturer, how could I visit you when you are the ruler of the worlds?" And Allah replied, "Did you not know that when one of my servants was sick and you didn't visit her? If you had visited her, you would have found me there." Then Allah will say, "Child of Adam, I needed food, but you did not feed me." Again, "My Lord, how could I feed you when you are the nurturer of the worlds? Did you not know that one of my servants was hungry, but you did not feed them? If you had fed them, you would have found its reward with me. Child of Adam, I was thirsty, but you did not give me something to drink. My Rabb, how could I give a drink when you are the sovereign of the universe? Did you not know that one of my servants was thirsty, but you did not give him a drink? If you had given him a drink, you would have found its reward with me." So devotion to Allah and Allah's presence is found in actions that serve the welfare of others. When my lover draws near to me by the span of his hand, I draw near to him by 3 times the length. When my lover approaches me walking, I approach them running, declares the beloved. My love is by necessity for those who love one another in me, for those who sit with one another in me, for those who give generously to one another in me, for those who visit one another in me. Here we find a transcendental love that is said to hold all things in its embrace. My lover does not cease to approach me through acts that are greater than what is required until I love them. And when I love them, I become the hearing through which they hear, the sight with which one sees, the hand with which one grasps, the foot with which one walks. And if the lover asks something of me, I shall give it to them. When Allah falls in love with the lover's faculties become divine love embodied in the world. And they act with and through divine love to transform the suffering and the brokenness of the world. And I know you all know something about that. Now, the day of resurrection, it's the culmination of time in the Islamic tradition and many of the world's religions. And this is the last wisdom teaching we'll consider this morning from the Hadith Qudsi. Now, this day is also known in my Sufi lineage as Non-Judgment Day and the Day of Awakening. I've always imagined it to be the day when love finally reigns supreme in every human heart. Allah will say on the Day of Awakening, "Where are those who love one another through my glory? Today I shall give them shade. In my shade, it is a day in which it will be the only shade." The radiant shade of divine love shines then upon all those who love each other. May it shine upon us now and always. Ramazan Mubarak. May blessings abound for all this holy month. Amin, and blessed be. The appropriate Sufi response is, "Hoo, hoo, hoo."
Your offering today goes to support the work of multiple groups in our church, groups that build trust and beauty and fun in our congregation. For example, our Soulful Sundown group and the Building Your Own Theology group, the Pastoral Care group, and many book groups. This is just a few of the things we're doing at church. In addition, half of our Sunday offerings this month go to the D.D. Hirsch Mental Health Services, and I actually have Aubrey here who works for this amazing organization and can tell you more.
Hey, everybody. Many of you know me as, well, I was for a long time a worship associate, and now you might see me in the back doing our tech. I also work as a mental health counselor in my day job for D.D. Hirsch Mental Health Services. I work in a crisis residential. D.D. Hirsch Mental Health Services, we're like a giant agency. We touch on and provide services for something like 230,000 people a year. Like in Southern California alone, which kind of boggles the mind. We're one of the primary contractors for the state of California for the 988 crisis line, the suicide crisis line. We have all kinds of events throughout the year. We have multiple outpatient clinics. We opened this past year a program called Our Third Place. It's like a hangout space for teens and at-risk youth from ages 15 to 25, the transitional aged youth they're called, TAY youth, where they can hang out and get some therapy and play some video games and do their laundry if that's something that's difficult for them to access, or have a hot meal. Like I said, I work in a crisis residential program. It's an up to 28-day program where people mostly coming out of hospitalization, come and have a month. We work with them. We cook a lot of eggs. I do everything from cleaning and cooking breakfast to leading support groups to advocating for them with getting into another program for maybe if they need treatment or they need housing or what have you. I interface with police when things happen. We do all kinds of things, going above and beyond as much as we can for people in need. On top of we do a 5K, we do all kinds of stuff. So we're like a weirdly massive organization that I, even before I started, did not realize was doing so much work out there and has been doing a lot of work since the 70s. Thank you very much for giving us this portion of the generous contribution this month. And yeah, thanks.
Thank you, Aubrey. We invite you to contribute in whatever way feels right to you. Ways to give are displayed in the slide behind me. All the ways of receiving support are gratefully accepted. Cash and checks can be placed in the offertory bags passed around shortly. Thank you for all you do. Thank you for all you give to the church, to your communities, and beyond. The ushers are invited to come forward. Your offering will now be gratefully received.
Our offertory anthem is El Helwadi. It is a song by Sayyid Darwish in Egyptian Arabic. This song represents Egyptian life at the beginning of the 20th century. Early in the morning, a beautiful woman wakes up to prepare the bread of the day. In the meantime, the sound of the rooster is heard and the entire neighborhood awakens. People begin to greet each other happily. Their pockets are empty of money, but their mood is calm and peaceful, convinced that hope and patience are good virtues in life and that God is always present in the hearts of poor people. And we would like to read to you the translation of this, El Helwadi, this beautiful one.
This beautiful one woke up to knead dough early in the morning, and the rooster crows cuckoo, cuckoo at early dawn. Let us go on and make our living by the name of God, O workers. May your morning be a good one, O Master Atea.
This morning came, O dear Lord, and there is not a penny in the pocket, but the mood is calm and peaceful among the mistreated workers.
Patience has gone on for too long due to the constant bad situation. You, who have a lot of money, the poor people also have a generous God.
Hands together, Abu Salah, because you will live happily trusting in God. Rely upon the Lord. Come on, time is passing.
The sun is rising, and everything belongs to God. Go, seek your living, count on God. Go carry your shovel and tools, and let us go.
Hold yourself strong, Abu Salam. Fight hard, and you will live quiet. Rely upon the Lord. Come on, the time is passing.
Please rise in body or in spirit for our closing hymn. This is 193 from your gray hymnals. Our faith is but a single gem.
Truth which runs to them.
I'm tall, but I'm not that tall. No worries. May you go in peace. May you hold fast to that which is good. May you return to no person evil for evil, but may you strengthen the faint of heart, support the weak, help the afflicted. May you go forth into this day and be blessed, and may you be a blessing. Amen.